how would I run an experiment that way? Like, okay, so I want to run an experiment to test my miles per gallon. What can I keep constant and what can I allow to vary? Well, one thing I can do is not vary who I am in the sense that I drive the way I drive. So don't consciously alter the way you drive while you're conducting the experiment. So from one trip to another, don't change your driving habits. Or if you're worried that that might happen, do it over a longer period of time. So instead of collecting your data over a period of, like, let's say a week, collect it over a month or 2 months, so that any moment where you're like, oh, I better be careful, I'm going to drive slower and more carefully to get better fuel economy, that's going to be outweighed by the numerous amount of times that you're just going to drive out of instinct, right? Natural habit. All right, so the larger sample kind of flesh out those inconsistencies. So what I would do, and I guess this, I mean, it might as well be an experiment. If none of you do it, I might as well do it myself, and that would be to vary the octane. So over a period of 1 week, 87, and over a period of another week, 93, and see what the difference is in fuel economy. Now, the issue with miles per gallon can be like what you're looking for. It would only make sense to look at average mile per gallon because I think it's too dangerous to look for instantaneous. Like, it'll tell you at any moment what your MPG rating is at that particular instant, but to log all that information as you're driving, you'll get yourself killed. So what you would want to do is at the end of a day, for example, just take note of what your fuel economy is and then reset the odometer so that at the end of the next day you have an average fuel economy. And then you could get it 7 days for the one and then 7 days for another. I mean, we're in a class that has a finite amount of time, so I mean, 2 weeks would be reasonable, but if you have more time, then that's something to look at. And I mean, the variable here that would not necessarily be addressed, I almost fell, it would be the idea that do the finances balance out? All right, so if, like, because 93 is more expensive, but is it that much more expensive? Like, let's say, because I get a week, I get 5 days, Monday to Friday, I fill it up Sunday night, and then Friday afternoon, I'm right at where the point where the gas light's going to come on. So I get almost exactly a work week out of it. So, I mean, it's kind of what you sign up for when you get a car. About 40 miles each way. Yeah. Oh, no, I'm in Cross River. It's the other John Jay. I actually used to work in that John Jay, in Hopewell, yeah. So, actually, distance-wise, I think it's about the same, though. So yeah, a solid week. Now, if going to the higher octane is going to give me a week and a half, but I'm going to pay more, will it amount to the same thing? And if it does, might as well use the 93 because I'm going to fill up less often, so it's just less energy that I'm going to expend. And it's going to be better for the car. So there's added bonuses there. So, yeah. So if one of you doesn't do it, I'll do it. You know, that'll be my project. But I hope one of you does it. But yeah, we'd have to be very careful about not including other variables there. So I usually have a ton of stuff in the car, like hockey bag, fencing equipment. Yeah, he fences too. Like just random things that are thrown into the car. If all of a sudden I say, okay, 1 week, you know, I have 87 in the tank, I have all this stuff in the car, so it's weighed down, and then the next week I put 93, and then I take all the stuff out. Now I'm running with less weight. Weight impacts fuel economy, right? That's a subtle adjustment that would impact things. It's a lurking variable. Something that's more obvious that I don't think would happen, but like at the end of the first week, I have, you know, my all-season tires on, but then maybe I go to the tire warehouse in Elmsford. Good place, like those guys. Talk to Mike, he's a nice guy. Good prices. It's called Tire Warehouse. It's on Warehouse Road. It's over by UPS. It's like if you make the left at Sam's Club and you just go back there. So really, really good people. Gives it to you straight. I like straight talk. Not trying to sell you anything that you don't need. Yeah, but if I switch to like winter tires, lurking variable. I mean, I don't know what impact the winter tires are going to have on fuel economy, but it's a heavier tire, so it's probably going to have some impact. Right? So things that I would want to take into account. All right. So your observational study can be of three varieties. Pretty easy to identify. Cross-sectional, retrospective, and longitudinal. Cross-sectional is your present. Retrospective is past. Longitudinal is future. So it's the three tenses. So present, past, future. So the present one is easy. I mean, at least easy to conceptualize. Not always easy to carry out. Nothing's easy in statistics when you're doing a study. But that's if, like the blood pressure example I gave last week, like you're collecting individuals' blood pressures at a particular moment, that's cross-sectional. You're getting them at a particular moment in time. Now, if you're looking up their medical records to get the history of their blood pressures over time, now it's retrospective. All right? If what I want to do is get a group of people and follow their health over the course of the next 5 years, then it becomes longitudinal, right? Because then they would be reporting their information to me, or their doctors would be reporting their information to me over the course of 5 years. That would be longitudinal, right? So I'm deciding now who I want to be in the study and then collecting their data in the future. Some basic vocabulary: EUs, experimental units, individuals. Why we need another term for it, I don't know. Well, I mean, I do know. It's because it's individuals specifically that are part of an experiment, but it's the same general idea. A subject is the human experimental unit. Experimental unit. I said eunuch. That means something completely different. A treatment is a specific condition applied to an EU. Explanatory response variables are your input and output variables. So these are going to be the cause and effect if they exist. If there is a cause and effect relationship, it's going to come from these two variables: a single explanatory variable and a single response variable. Does the explanatory variable cause the response variable to happen? When you're doing an experiment, when you're conducting an experiment, that's what you're looking for. All right. So if you were measuring a person's height and weight, you would see that there's a correlation between the two. As a person's height increases, their weight increases, or vice versa. That doesn't mean the height increase caused the weight to increase. I mean, it might. There's reason to believe in a lot of cases that that could be how it works, but just because there is a relationship doesn't mean the one thing caused the other to happen. All right? It's only through a controlled experiment that that relationship will be determined. Can only determine through controlled experiment. The lurking variable is a variable that's unaccounted for in the design of your experiment. Those are the worst. There's some variable. I mean, this is one of the nice terms that defines itself. It's lurking. It's kind of hidden behind the scenes. It's influencing the outcome. It's Darth Sidious.
So, like for that example, if the coworker decided to get gas, that's no one else would respond.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, so anything that would impact the response. I've had cases where my wife has messed up my gas mileage experiment. It's like, whoa, I'm getting 50 miles a gallon. This is great. She didn't tell me she filled up the tank on Tuesday and didn't reset the odometer. So at the end, when I'm refilling the tank, I'm like, oh, this is great. I got like 500 miles out of this tank. This is wonderful. I'm like, well, that doesn't seem to make sense. So anybody who kind of impacts the outcome of a study could be a lurking variable, but it could even be something simpler than that, right? So weather, something very simple. I'm not even talking about that kind of weather, the crazy weather that we just got. It could be something like minor variations in weather, humidity, pressure, things like that. So if I were to conduct my gas mileage experiment, but do the 87 in the spring, but do the 93 in the fall, that could impact things. I don't know in what way. That's why it's called a lurking variable. But there could be something going on behind the scenes that impacts the way things play out. I do. I mean, I don't. This is anecdotal. It's just something that I noticed off the top of my head. But it seems like traffic picks up for some reason after daylight saving time starts. So what was it, November 4th? It was like, and it's just something simple like coming out of a particular plaza on Sawmill River Road. I was able to make a left. There's like crazy traffic normally at certain times, but at the time that I was there, I could make a left, and it was right by the executive diner. So I could make a left and have no problem. Then daylight saving time happened, and then now I can't make a left anymore because there's car after car after car after car after car. I don't know what happened aside from that. It looks to me like just the clock change is causing the traffic. I mean, that can't be the case. I mean, it's not possible. Like there's no way that moving the clocks back 1 hour just manufactured traffic. But it seems that way. All right, so the time change must be a lurking variable. There must be some other real variable that can be fleshed out. I just don't know what that is. Okay, but it's there. It's just completely unaccounted for. So if I'm looking for time of day, a relationship between time of day and traffic, I'd really have to investigate and see what's going on. I mean, maybe there are some industries that actually change a person's work schedule based on daylight saving time. I mean, that's completely possible. I know agriculture does, but last I checked, there aren't too many farms around here. Oh, so they can make their own, like nursing, things like that. They can make their own schedule. Doctors.
So like your job on time, probably you can drive on time, instead of you gotta work.
Right. Right. So if you have some flexibility in your schedule,
But you do 7 to 3,
huh? There might be a study in that. Idea for a project. If anybody wants it. Just throwing them out here today. Confounding. Presence of multiple lurking variables and or you're unable to distinguish among the effects of different factors. Right? So different factors that could impact the outcome. Factors is when, I mean, anything that is a treatment is also considered to be a factor. Explanatory variables and treatments tend to go hand in hand. But I think factor is one of those terms that kind of defines itself. Like what factors impact the outcome? Like, well, you think about growing a tomato plant. Well, what does a tomato plant need? It needs soil. It needs some sort of food source, fertilizer of some kind, water. I use Miracle Grow as an example. Sunlight, all these different possibilities. So if I just gave the plant dirt, it didn't grow. I know why it didn't grow. I just gave it dirt. Like, here's some dirt, eat. Like, it's not going to grow. Gave it some water. Okay, now we're seeing some results. Some water, soil, and miracle grow. All right, a little bit better. Now, and this is all without sunlight. Throw in some sunlight, getting a little bit more. Then throw in some plant food. Now I'm getting even more. Here I can see a progression from one level to another. This would be a controlled experiment because I'm looking at, even though I have a lot of different factors coming into play, I've isolated them so I can do a direct comparison from one level to another. So how did it grow to be the largest / most bountiful? Well, by having all of these things in it. But now I could see that the difference between a good plant and a great plant is plant food. The difference between a plant that grows and a plant that bears some fruit would be sunlight. The difference between a plant that's barely growing at all and a plant that grows somewhat would be water, and then, death versus not, like this is barely hanging on. So I can see a progression here. Now, if I were just to compare dirt, so basically A and E, I don't know what caused it to grow. All right. So how did it grow to be the largest, most bountiful? We'll assume that the time is constant. Yeah, same amount of time, but that's a good point, because if we're talking about, like, let's say this one is only allowed to grow for like a week, and this is like 6 months in, then it could just be a matter of time. Maybe dirt over 6 months to get the job done. So that's a good point. So these are all at the same time. And you just identified a lurking variable, right? So if you don't account for that, then now it's like, well, was it time that did it? So A to B, water. B to C, miracle grow. C to D, sunlight. D to E, plant food. Now, if it was just A to E, no idea. Right? So it's a difference between having a nice set of controls versus the alternative. Like, I know that something caused a nice plant to emerge. I just don't know what. Now, maybe you don't care. Maybe you're going to Home Depot, you're going to buy all that stuff anyway. You know it's going to produce this particular plant. But maybe you're on a budget. And you say, well, I don't have enough money for all of these ingredients. Well, I mean, necessarily. Maybe you don't have enough money for the miracle grow and the plant food. So you ditch the plant food. Maybe all you needed was the miracle grow. Which has, what does it have, a plant food in it?
The leftover when you cook, this is my country, that's what they do. Like when you got when you cooking and you have onions, green pepper, whatever leftover you cutting off and
Right.
it for a plant.
Yeah.
And coffee.
And coffee.
And the coffee after you do it, put it in the plant.
Huh.
That's
That's awesome. And reasonable, because it doesn't cost anywhere near as expensive. It's November though. So that would be an idea for spring semester stat. Unless anybody has one of those, yeah, you bring your plant. I mean,